Hi, this is Nancy Damiano with this week's episode of Scrap Your Stash, brought to you by 2peasinabucket.com. On this week's episode, I am going to scrapbook my bucket list from this past summer. Now, starting early in the spring, I kept seeing these really cool summer bucket lists, like this fancy chalkboard one, up on Pinterest. And so my son and I sat down and we wrote out all the different things that he wanted to do this summer. A lot of simple things like catching fireflies, along with riding in an airplane and visiting the zoo. I thought this topic would make a great scrapbook page to gather all the pictures from this summer and the list together in one 2-page spread. So that's the gist of the video for today. And also we're going to touch on how to blend two different scrapbook lines together. It's something that I love to do. The first collection I'm going to start out with is Trendsetter by Fancy Pants. Now I've had this for quite some time now, I think, a couple months anyway, and all I have left really are the papers and this one die cut embellishment pack. I don't have anything else to go with it. So I love the colors though, and I want to use up some of these papers, and I thought they went really well with my pictures. The second collection that I pulled out is Family Stories by Teresa, and this is brand new to me. I just got this maybe a week ago or so. And when I put it up against the papers from Trendsetter, the match was perfect, almost all the way across the line. So I'm going to use a lot of these embellishments and just meld them with papers that I already had on hand. And I really love when that happens. To begin the page, I started to flip through my pictures just to see if I had a common color palette. And I saw a lot of pinks and a lot of turquoises, which is why I turned to the Trendsetter collection, the paper and these die cuts that I had left. I knew that I wanted to use the numbers because it had all these great patterns in it. And also I liked the countdown of our summer and the things that we did. So I liked the symbolism that represented as well. Now this is a part of the video that I usually cut out, and I'm not sure why I've done that in the past, but this time I decided to leave it in. My first thought was actually to do a monochromatic page and use all the blues in this collection. So that's what I'm doing here. And I'm just looking for a good mix of patterns, some small and some large. And you see that I have that corrugated sheet too. I like that Fancy Pants puts that in there in all their collection packs. And then once I got all these patterns together, I totally changed my mind. And I thought that the numbers die cuts that I was going to use would look better with some color. And I'm always attracted to a lot of color. So I go through my stack again. And now I'm going to base everything off of this one stripe pattern paper. And I'll choose a few different patterns, this nice little dot and the chevron. And then I always usually use some kind of graph or lined paper to break up all the pattern. Once I had that selection down, I'm going to start building some layers. I started out on a scrap piece of cardstock, that sort of hot pink that you see there. And I know that I want this stripe peeking up at the top. And that's going to give me a nice little punch of color up at the top. I'm going to use this lined paper as my neutral. I also like these because they're easy to center your titles onto. So I knew that I was going to do that part. And then always a little pop of turquoise. And a great landing spot for all of these numbers. The next thing I'm going to add is these mini Polaroids from Heidi Swapp. I've had them hanging around for a while, so it was good to use them up. That's part of my stash, my little older stash. And I'm not going to use them for photos. I've done that in the past, but I want to do something different. Actually, the journaling is going to go in those spots, and I just want to make sure that I have some room here for them. I'm using these Prima fabric sticker letters in this nice watermelon color. They match really well with both of the collections that I'm using today, Family Stories and Trendsetter. I just wanted to make sure I had room there before I stuck down my alphabet. And now for a little fun twist on the alphabet, instead of just gluing them down straight in a row like this, I'm going to pop some up. And that's just going to give me a nice high-low effect at the top and adds a little more texture. So every other number I will pop up, and there you have it. I went ahead and printed all of the journaling, which is our summer bucket list. Now this list, it has some of the things that we actually did this summer, but not everything that we did this summer. So you're going to see some of the boxes go unchecked, and you'll see, I'll show you a close-up of it so you can see what I mean. And I wanted to do them on vellum just to give them a soft feel inside of that frame. I could have done them in stark white, it would have been fine, but I like the layering that vellum gives to a page. Now I'm going to place the title Right Justified. I'm just going to spell it backwards, which should be easy, but you'll see that it's not. And I like this really contrasting color. It's my nice pop of a bright. It's almost neon. It's so bright, but not quite. And there you go. I really do know how to spell bucket. And I do catch it, thank goodness, before I got too far. It's good when sticker letters are a little forgiving like this. I'm just keeping those letters really close together and really close to the numbers. I think they make a good visual impact that way. And now I'm just going to add the word summer in a contrasting color. I like to use two different colors and a lot of times two different sizes for titles. It makes them more interesting visually. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put it as close as possible to those letters. To the big giant watermelon letters, so it looks like one big block of text together. Spacing is really important. I've done enough with the title for now. I'll go back and embellish more later, but I like to get a bigger picture of the entire 2-page layout before I put on the finishing touches. Now down in the bottom of the layout, I have this kind of empty spot. So it's perfect for using these borders. This is Teresa Collins' Family Stories, and they have such great borders in here. You'll see me pull out lots of different ones. I wanted to pull out more of the pink. I usually don't use pink, but there's quite a bit of pink in my pictures this time. So that was a nice change. And I think I just like the big fat stripe at the bottom with the contrasting really thin stripe the large thick stripe at the top, and then the contrasting thin stripe at the bottom. And then I just hit a little bit of that with the glitter border. And that glitter actually does not come off. I cannot stand glitter that comes off of things, so I wouldn't use it if it did. Now here I see that I want to add another layer to those Polaroid film slides, and I'm going to use some washi tape to do that. I just did one because I'm not sure if I'm going to place it at the top or the bottom. I just want to get a feel for how this border looks first. And the border doesn't go all the way across. I didn't want it to. I wanted to make it a little bit of a staggered look, so the layout doesn't look so boxy. We have a lot of straight graphic lines, which I love, but sometimes it's nice to leave something a little bit askew to get away from a super boxy look. So by not bringing it over all the way to the left-hand side, that's the design that I added. Now I'm looking for something to ground on those straight lines at the bottom, preferably a nice large embellishment. And I have these also from Teresa again. I love this arrow, but I was kind of sad that it just was a little too small. And you could see the difference there between the smaller and the larger embellishment, how it balances out the title up at the top. So I went with the anchor since we're doing summer things and there's a lot of water pictures on the other side. I thought that was theme appropriate. I finally decided that the washi would go at the top. That helps me ground them, but again, it adds another layer to the top of it. You can barely see it in the video, but you'll be able to see it much better in the photos. Now I'm going to show you, there is a close-up shot of the bucket list, and there are little tiny squares next to each of the items that we did and some that we didn't. And I'm going to fill those in with the smallest size enamel dots. I have a ton of enamel dots. If you don't want to use enamel dots or don't have them, I know they're expensive, you can use brads. You can just use different color markers or even colored pencils and just make nice check marks in the same color as your striped pattern paper. And I'm just going to go through and check off each item that we did do. And hopefully that doesn't highlight what we didn't do, but I liked it as a design element anyway. On the right side, I have some of my favorite 3x3 photos, some of them on pop dots, and that is also going to give me the same kind of dimension that I have going on the left side with the numbers, where some are high and some are low. I wanted to repeat that on the right side, but this time with photos. And I also wanted to cover the entire page almost with photos. I really want them to stand out here. So my favorites of the favorites are the ones that are on pop dots. Now I'm going to put both pages side by side, and that just gives me a view of the entire layout. I kind of view it as one 12x24 layout rather than two separate pages. These are some sequins, really large ones from Teresa. I love these. They're the largest ones I've seen yet. This is also from the Family Stories collection. And I'll sprinkle those on top of the photos. That's going to give me a little bit of movement. I don't want to add too much to the right side, but a few sequins will look just right. Sort of a fun element too. And I'll sprinkle them around all over the page. And I mess with them, so you'll see at the final product, some of those sequins will have moved around quite a bit. Then I'm going to use some normal size sequins next to those big ones. You can really see how much larger they are than a regular sequin. And here I noticed that I didn't have the year, which is so important on pages. I could have stamped it, but I decided to use up some of these letter stickers that I've had for a while. And I also had a good spot for it up here at the top. So I'll just add 2013 there. a little bit more messing around with the sequins. And then right here, I had sort of an odd blank spot. I didn't feel that bucket list was really long enough to balance out that huge line of numbers. So I decided to use the stamp. This is also Teresa Collins. And it's a really simple stamp. It just says today. And I'm going to stamp it with light gray ink. I don't want it to compete with the navy, and I don't want it to compete with the black writing in my bucket list, so that's why I chose the gray. So there, it just adds a little nice homemade touch and a little bit of color and a little bit more text to the design. Now the following day, when I took another look at the layout, I felt that it was a little bit washed out, like it needed a little more color on the left side. And so that's why I went ahead and added the navy solid pattern paper underneath those Polaroids. I really like the idea of gathering photos from an entire season and putting them across a 2-page layout like this. So I'm thinking of maybe doing a fall version of this page and doing the hayrides and pumpkin patches and even the Halloween parties that we go to. You could also do an entire season of Christmas photos this way, or any season that your family is very active in and you have a collection of photos. I hope you find this helpful the next time that you go to scrapbook a 2-page layout with multiple photos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.